Alright, so today we are talking about Makhachev versus Topuria. We got Henry Cedjudo commenting on it, and then we're gonna talk about whether or not this is the biggest fight ever. Now I know it. Dana White said that John Jones versus Tom Aspinall is the biggest heavyweight fight of all time, and I disagree. I think it would be Pereira versus Francis. Like the story to that fight, you could make multiple documentaries, and you. Anyways, I already made a video on that. I think. But anyways, we're gonna read this article. We're gonna talk about it. Before we begin, though, if you like the content, subscribe. We hit 800 subs, so thank you guys. It's really amazing how much this channel has grown over the past year. Not going to get into it, but 2024 started off pretty rough for me. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Oh yeah, also, and it's ending really well, so there's that. So, former two-division UFC champion believes Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria is a bigger fight than Joe. Oh. It's not a tactical video without indigestion. But I'll start reading it. Former two-division UFC champion believes Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria is a bigger fight than John Jones versus Tom Aspinall. One second here. No, whatever. So, a former UFC champion believes, we just said that, many fans have been clamoring for Jones versus Aspinall, given that it would settle who is the best heavyweight in the UFC. Bones holds the main title, while Aspinall has his hands on interim gold. The UFC CEO Dana White is working to make the title unification bout a reality in 2025. Is it possible that another mega fight tops that one? In the mind of Triple C, Makhachev versus Topuria might just be that bigger fight. So, on a recent episode of the Pound for Pound podcast, Henry Cedjudo told Kamal Usman that he believes Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria could bring even more business for the UFC than Jones versus Aspinall. I personally believe that Makhachev versus Topuria could potentially be bigger than Jones and Tom Aspinall, Cejudo said on his Pound for Pound podcast with Kamal Usman. Competitively, of course, man, it's not just that. It's simply the fact that Ilia Topuria has a chance to become champ. The heavyweight division, we just know who's the real undisputed champion. Who's the real undisputed champion, sorry. But in this position, if Ilia does win, that puts him in the category of fuck you, beat former pound for pound best and Alexander Volkanovski. You're beating the current pound for pound and a guy like Islam Makhachev. Give him his flowers. Topuria's team has teased potentially moving up to the lightweight division. El Matador is the current UFC featherweight champion, and if he stays in the division, he'll likely face Alexander Volkanovski in a rematch. As for Makhachev, the reigning UFC lightweight champion, he hasn't shown much interest in facing Topuria unless the current 145-pounder proves himself at 155. So, in my video where I last talked about this way, right? I brought up the Jai Herbert fight where he went up to a lightweight. He nearly got knocked out, but he did win that fight by knockout. I believe that, well, that was on short notice too. I believe that Topuria moving up to 155 properly, give him a few months, longer than one training camp. Let him, if he's gonna fight Oliveira, let him fight Oliveira. However, I do believe it will be better for him to defend the featherweight belt a few times. I believe by doing that, beating Volkanovski, the former number one pound for pound, beating Max Holloway, arguably the second best featherweight ever. You beat Diego Lopez, who seems to be the clear number one contender of this generation. Then you move up. Maybe by then you should fight Islam for the belt before Charles. But say he does move up, relinquish the belt, beat Charles Oliveira, and then beats Islam Makhachev. One, we gotta remember the Dagestani is only fighting one Cejudo. So, maybe with Topuria winning, we would have an active lightweight champion. And when you talk about number one pound for pound, currently it's Makhachev. He beat the number one guy twice in a row, knocking him out in the last fight. Beat Poirier. He's been dominant ever since that one knockout loss, right? We'll have to see what will happen between Salukian and him in a few weeks. But with Topuria, his star power is through the roof right now. When you do what you did and what he did to fan favorites, to all-time greats, that cements you in a position that, Conor was in, but then he threw it away. It puts you in Jones territory with his wins over DC. I would throw Josh up there. He did beat former champions, but they were middleweight some were middleweight, others were light heavyweight. But with Topuria wanting to retire so soon, he wants to have the biggest fights for the money, for the legacy, and he wants to walk away as the greatest, if not one of the greatest fighters of all time. And he is in that conversation. You have a couple people in there. Pereira, within 3 years being in the UFC, has already had a Hall of Fame career. Right? So, I really do want to see this fight. I think it is possible we see this fight next year even. But Islam needs to defend his belt more than once a year. Topuria needs to beat Diego Lopez. I would like for him to get an extra fight in featherweight because I do agree with Dricus Duplessis that having 3 title defenses should be the requirement for moving up in weight, because that way you're not just jumping an entire division. You're not putting a division on hold, because that's what happens with these champ versus champ fights. I believe it should be you solidify your case as the best in your division, right? In the case of Connor, he was a massive star, which you can argue Topuria is a massive star. But like I said, I do want to see champions defend their belt. That's why Pereira is a breath of fresh air. Like, I looked at Pantoja, and that Pantoja is really active. Like, we need more guys like that, because when you defend your belt, it shows your determination. It shows your competitive nature, right? In terms of John Jones, if he's able to beat Aspinall, maybe Volkov, maybe, I don't know, give any name. If he shows he's able to do that, and do that efficiently, that's how you win people over. That's how you make fans. That's how you lose haters, right? And, like, Tom Aspinall is a star, but he's nowhere near the star that Islam and Topuria are. I don't think I need to tell you that. I do like I said, I do like the Oliveira fight. I really do like that. So, it's either you defend your belt, you get your legacy, and you move up that way. Or you say fuck it and go ahead and beat some contenders in the lightweight division. I really don't want the Charles fight, mainly because I want Charles to get his rematch against the winner of, or whoever wins. I have a feeling, though, they might give Islam an immediate rematch if he does lose. I don't see him losing. But we'll have to see. Regardless, 2025, we have a ton of super fights on the table. In the UFC, out of the UFC, we have a ton of fights that I would love to see. The big one being the UFC and Dana White needs to stop bitching about Francis Ngannou and re-sign him. Francis, like, you bring in Francis, right? I've already made videos on this. You can make so many super fights, and that's the problem now, is we're not getting the fights we want. We're not getting Ankalaev versus Pereira. We're not, well, supposedly we are getting Aspinall Jones. So, we'll have to see. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about Henry Cedjudo's opinion on Islam versus Topuria? Do you believe that Islam versus Ilia Topuria is a bigger fight than John Jones versus Tom Aspinall? Or do you believe that there's a bigger fight, or that John Jones versus Aspinall is the biggest fight? I'm interested to hear your opinion. Leave a like, subscribe, all that stuff. Later.